Have you ever been unsatisfied with your guitar tone? Jeez, man, welcome to the club. You can consider yourself just one among countless guitar players all around the world who've found themselves falling short of the guitar tone that they imagined in their heads. Is there any hope for us? Jeez, man, I don't know. But I think there may be help for one of us. Stick around. Welcome everyone, this is Adam from Miller's Custom Guitars, and this channel is all about understanding our instruments better and learning how to form a stronger bond with our instruments. Whether that's through learning how to better maintenance and service our instruments, or like today, trying to understand why we aren't getting the sounds that we think we should be getting from our gear. Recently, I was sent a video link from a viewer. This viewer posed some excellent questions, and I thought that our conversation would be perfect for discussion on the channel. I asked the viewer his permission to share some of the clips from his video here with you guys, and he graciously agreed. So we're going to be addressing his questions and concerns together right here. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Glen. Let's listen to some of what Glen has to say. Hello, Glen.
Hey, I've been watching your guitar kit build series, and it's been a roller coaster of emotions.
Why, thanks, Glen. That's so nice of you to say. If you haven't seen my 3-part mini-series on kit guitar building, that series is available now. I'd love for you to watch it. It's loaded full of great information, including tips for shopping for a kit in the first video, a comprehensive build video in the second, and a head-to-head comparison against an affordable factory guitar in the third video. I also recently posted a follow-up video where I took that kit guitar and souped it up and gave it a makeover. I gave it everything but the kitchen sink, and it turned out pretty awesome. You guys can go watch those videos after this one if you're interested. I'd appreciate it if you did that. You don't have to. Anyway, let's get back to Glen, see what he has to say.
Been a roller coaster of emotions from, I'm going to build one of those, to, ooh, I don't know.
Well, I think Glen's got a great point here. My goal was to inspire people to build guitar kits and maybe show them some things that they haven't seen before. However, part of the purpose of my kit series was to potentially help some people realize that perhaps kit guitars weren't the right choice for them. Yeah, Glen, even though kit guitars are a lot of fun, if you don't think that a kit guitar is the right decision for you, you're probably right. I'm not sure if it is the best fit for you, especially after I heard what's coming up next. Why don't you guys take a look?
Really the bigger question in my guitar playing and music life is, I've had an electric guitar since I was 19, and they're beautiful. They're what the awesome blues players play, but I've never played an electric that sounds anywhere near as good as an acoustic. Like, I'd kind of like to be an electric player, but I just don't like the sound. And I'm curious if maybe the guitars that I've been playing, or the way that I've been amplifying them or something, like maybe there is an electric that sounds, maybe not like an acoustic, but with a little more top end and soul to it. So I'm going to go through the guitars I have in front of me and try to show you what I'm talking about.
Okay, so Glen loves the sound of acoustic guitars, but has never really jived with electric guitars? Well, he's obviously wrong. Both electric guitars and acoustic guitars, they're all awesome, all the time. Doesn't matter what style of music you play or which guitar you play, there's nothing wrong with the instruments. That means there must be something wrong with Glen. There's no discussion. He's wrong. Okay, guys, don't be a jerk. See, guys, this is why I tell you guys not to be a jerk in the first place. Sometimes asking for advice on the internet feels like you're just being attacked by an angry mob of rude, opinionated blowhards. That's never going to happen on this channel. like, I feel icky even joking like that because that's not me. This is a safe place. Glen's concerns are legitimate and valid. Let's keep watching and I'll show you what I mean.
That's the middle position.
Okay, so he plays his brown guitar here, and I think we can all agree with Glen that the tone on that guitar, it's not spectacular, or at least it's not a very good match for Glen. And let's not take anything away from Glen here. It's obvious he knows how to play. The guitar is super dark and muddy sounding with very little warmth or clarity. And Glen later mentions that his guitar is strung with flat wound strings, and that might contribute to the dark tone. But he's got another electric guitar too. Let's see how that goes. Well, this guitar is better, but I don't know, it's still not awesome. The single coil pickups add some high-end snap, but overall it still sounds a little clunky and still pretty dark sounding. But Glen says he prefers the sound of his acoustic guitar, so let's give that a listen. So fair warning, the clip ends abruptly here because he edited out a song that he's in the process of copywriting, and we're going to respect that. However, there's more than enough music here to keep our discussion going. So this is the part of the video where we stop judging and start trying to help. Whatever you may think of Glen's acoustic sound, this is a sound that he connects with. And you can see it almost immediately. As soon as he grabs his acoustic and starts to play, there's a connection. It's not just the guitar either. There's something about the combination of guitar and the sounds he's getting. It's pulling a little something extra out of him and his playing. He feels at home. Whether or not this is a sound you would connect with, it's besides the point. The point is that when Glen reaches for an electric guitar, he's not finding that same connection. And I wonder if we can maybe provide some advice, both to Glen as well as to other guitar players. Let's see if there's any help I can provide. I don't claim to be a tone expert. I'm definitely not. I'm just, a friend on the internet trying to see if I can give my 2 cents and trying to make $1, trying to see if I can help. So let me start by just laying out some facts about acoustic and electric guitars. While some of these facts may seem obvious to you, they're not always so obvious for everyone, and so I think they're worth talking about. Despite their many similarities, the electric and acoustic guitars are very, very different instruments. And when you play them, the styles and techniques that you use are often very different. An acoustic guitar features hollow, braced construction. The type of wood that it's made from and the body shape makes a huge impact on the overall tone of the guitar. And the strings are usually much heavier than what you would normally find on electric guitars. Electric guitars, on the other hand, usually feature solid body construction. The wood type and overall body shape impacts the overall tone much less than the pickups in electronics do. The string gauge is often much lighter, and sometimes they even have a tremolo system. Wiggle stick. In addition to the structural and design differences, acoustic and electric guitars are played much differently as well. An acoustic guitar is primarily meant for strumming, flat picking, or finger picking. While it occasionally does happen, single note guitar solos on acoustic instruments are rare. Face it, the acoustic guitar is primarily a rhythm instrument, not a lead instrument. Sure, there are players like Andy McKee or Tommy Emmanuel, or I like YouTuber Kent Nishimura, all of whom can seemingly transform the acoustic guitar into an entire band. But those types of players are the exception and not the rule. For most of us, we are strumming, flat picking, or finger picking to try to help solidify the rhythm. The electric guitar, on the other hand, can do a lot of different things. It can be a rhythm instrument. It can be a lead instrument. It can be percussive. It can be ambient. The tones can be bright. Mid-focused. Or dark sounding. The tones can be crunchy, chewy, spicy, sloppy, wet, drippy, or big and loud, or raucous, or even dog-tastic. What do those words even mean? Some of those words apply to food, and others sound like they came from a controversial worship song. I'm sure at least some of those words were made up. The point is that there's a lot of different ways to play electric guitar. But I think that if you play your electric guitar the same way that you play your acoustic guitar and expect to get the same types of things out of them, you're probably going to end up disappointed. This has definitely happened to Glen here. I mean, he's playing electric guitar riffs here, but the whole time you can almost see the gears in his brain spinning, thinking, this isn't as good as my acoustic guitar. I don't know what voice I was doing there, Glen. I'm sorry, man. So, I think the first step is to shift your expectations. Electric will always sound different than acoustic, and maybe it's not about finding the same sound as your acoustic, but instead just finding a sound that you can connect with despite the differences. So, having laid that all out, there are a few glaring details from Glen's video that jump out to me and give me pause, so I wanted to mention those. The first thing that I want to point out are his gear choices. His acoustic guitar is a very warm sounding acoustic with a mids forward tone without very much bass and just enough high-end sparkle. On the other hand, his two electric guitars were kind of, I don't know, I would call them metal guitars. I mean, in the right hand, you could probably use any guitar for anything, but really these guitars, they kind of seem like they were meant to shred, if you know what I mean. The brown guitar probably sounds wicked with a ton of gain and some finger tapping licks, right? And the black guitar would probably destroy a Journey cover, you know what I mean, right? Look, I just think there's too much of a difference between the sound that he likes on his acoustic guitar and the sounds he's getting from his electric guitars. With that opinion established, let's get to my first actual recommendation. Recommendation number 1. I think Glen should maybe consider looking into warmer sounding pickups for his electric guitars. Or maybe even going so far as to searching for a guitar with a different pickup loadout. I believe that this could be the first step to getting him closer to sounds he connects with. I'd probably steer clear of single coil pickups, especially something like a Telecaster style pickup in the bridge. That's going to be way too harsh, probably. I'd recommend that he maybe sticks to humbucker pickups, but also, if possible, try and avoid pickups that are overly hot or overwound. Overwound pickups tend to have lots of bass and lack note definition due to their high output, which will tend to saturate the signal. I think that may be what's happening with the brown guitar. I think if he looks for vintage or PAF style pickups, they're going to have a full warm sound, but still have clarity without getting overly muddy. Or perhaps, P90 style pickups, which are well known to have strong mids and work well both clean and overdriven. That may provide a sound that Glen might connect with. I believe that if Glen were to try well-balanced, warm-sounding pickups, either as drop-in replacements on his brown guitar or on another guitar, he would find that he was getting much closer to the tones that he was connecting with. Nowadays, there are tons of great options for pickups. There are more pickup manufacturers than you can shake a stick at. Believe me, I tried. And honestly, all of them make great pickups. Pickup manufacturers like Seymour Duncan, Lindy Fralin, Jason Lawler, Bare Knuckle, Throwback, Jim Wagner pickups, Righteous Sounds, Dark Moon, DeMarzio. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on and on. Heck, I live in a tiny little town in the California Sierras called Sonora, California, and there are 3 separate companies in my little town that all manufacture pickups. All of the companies that I mentioned make excellent pickups. And the cost of new pickups can vary somewhat, but you can usually expect to spend anywhere from like $100 to $200 per pickup, sometimes more. Unless you're going with one of those ultra boutique brands, those can get really pricey. However, it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. I've heard really good things about the professional series Alnico humbuckers that are sold through Guitar Fetish. Those are like $40 a pop. You can give those a try if you want. The right pickups could go a long way in helping to create the connection that is missing between Glen and his guitar, and I think it's something that Glen should think about. Recommendation number 2. The next recommendation that I have is that I think Glen should consider looking into a hollow body, semi-hollow, Archtop, or other jazz box style guitar. Glen is used to playing acoustic guitar and having the resonance and vibrations and immediate response and interactions that an acoustic guitar gives you. Even when playing plugged in, these characteristics carry over while playing acoustic. I believe that if Glen was to look into a semi-hollow or Archtop style guitar, he would find that he connected more with the guitar for many of these same reasons. If you're playing a semi-hollow or archtop guitar, the whole thing is louder acoustically. The entire guitar vibrates more. It interacts with your playing differently. It's a completely different playing experience altogether. Also, hollow or semi-hollow guitars tend to have much more of a vintage style tone, which ties in with my first recommendation. It might be worth going to a well-stocked guitar store and just trying out a handful of different things and seeing if anything floats your boat in a way that guitars in the past haven't. I was recently on a short anniversary trip with my wife and stopped at a music store in the Bay Area and also at a guitar center in San Francisco. Both places had multiple semi-hollow and archtop options to play through and try out. I highly recommend doing something like that if you can. Now, I've been very vocal on this channel about how much I love my Epiphone ES335, so I'd obviously recommend trying one of these out. Of all the guitars I'm about to mention, this is the only one that I've actually tried, so that's the only one I can recommend from personal experience. This is an awesome guitar. Check it out. However, if you're looking for a lot of control over your tone, you may want to look at the signature BB King Lucille semi-hollow, which has a varitone control switch that lets you choose different tone settings. There's a Gibson version and a more affordable Epiphone version. Or maybe something like the Gretsch G6 118T-60GE. Don't look at me like that. Gretsch has model numbers that are weird. I picked this model to recommend because it has a 3-way toggle for the tone control rather than a tone knob. It gives you a lot of tone options. Or if you're looking for something with a smaller body, maybe something like the Ibanez AR520 HFM. It has medium output humbuckers and tritone switching, which can give you series, parallel, or split humbucker sounds for each pickup. There's even an affordable option like the Squier Classic Vibe Starcaster. When I was at Guitar Center that I mentioned earlier, I played one of those guitars and I really enjoyed it. It had a great feel and really good tone as well. I think that Glen would find his experience playing one of these guitars much different than playing the ones he currently owns. Any of the guitars I mentioned would put him in a different headspace, potentially bridging the gap between electric and acoustic. Also, almost all the guitars that I recommended have extremely flexible tone controls or switching options that could help him to really dial in different settings to get the sound he's looking for. Out of all the suggestions that I'm making today, I honestly think that this might be the one that would actually solve his problems the best. However, there is another route Glen could follow altogether. Recommendation number 3. Since Glen likes his acoustic guitar so much, it might be worth looking into an electric guitar that can also get acoustic sounds. Now, this technology is nothing new on the market, but it's gotten particularly good over the last decade or so. My buddy Joe let me borrow his PRS SE Hollow Body 2 Piezzo, and these guitars are really cool guitars that can get all the electric sounds. However, it also has an LR Baggs Piezzo Pickup built directly into the saddles so that you can get a great acoustic sound. Take a listen. also guitars like the Taylor T5Z, which is a hybrid between an acoustic and an electric guitar with a 5-way pickup selector to choose between different tones. These are great guitars that play like and sound like a Taylor when plugged in, but also have that electric pickup that you can switch to. Those are super cool. Or Glen may want to look into Fender's Acoustasonic line. They make them in Telecaster and Stratocaster and Jazzmaster shapes, and even recently made a Player Series Telecaster shaped one that has a lower price point. My dad has a Telesonic and really likes it. They're very versatile guitars. There's a lot of others, but these are some of the ones that I've personally run into, and I can verify that they're pretty cool. Each of these acoustic hybrid instruments that I mentioned mix electric guitar pickups with acoustic pickups in a way that lets you cover a lot of ground with one guitar. I think that if Glen had the option to combine electric guitar playability with acoustic guitar sounds, he may find that he's more comfortable and connected to the sounds that he's creating. Each of the guitars I mentioned also features hollow body construction, which also ties in with my previous recommendation. This might be something worth investigating, and if I was Glen, I would definitely try some of these guitars out if I had the opportunity. Recommendation number 4. Another thing to mention here, and I hate to point it out because Glen points it out himself, so he already knows that there's a problem, is that he's running electric guitars into an acoustic amp. In the same way that acoustic guitars and electric guitars are similar but different, amps made for acoustic guitars and amps made for electric guitars are similar but very different. Amps made for acoustic guitars are almost always solid state that are designed to stay clean under any circumstance. They're kind of like a PA that is specifically voiced for the acoustic guitar. Some of them even have microphone inputs. A great electric guitar amp, whether a tube or otherwise, is designed to compress and overdrive in just the right way to give you those great classic guitar tones that we all strive for, or sometimes modern guitar tones. Now, I don't know what Glen's normal amplification situation is for his electric guitars. I mean, maybe he's got an electric guitar amp in another room and he just used this amp for ease of demonstration. However, if the situation truly is that he's plugging into the same rig for electric and acoustic, then I would recommend that he look into an amplification solution that can handle both his electrics as well as his acoustics. He might want to consider maybe a multi-effects rig, something like a Line 6, maybe a Helix or HX Stomp, or heck, even a Pod Go. They can all have effects and amps and impulse responses that can handle electrics and acoustics. a budget option that you might go with like a Hoto Ampero or a Moore GE series. I know Boss has one as well. Okay, but now I feel a little guilty because I've been sitting here and all of my recommendations have boiled down to, hey man, why don't you go buy some cool expensive gear? And admittedly, I've been living a little vicariously through Glen a little bit and trying to solve his problems through money. So let's wrap up this video by just going back to basics and trying to see if we can get to the core of the issue. I want to circle back to my first point. I think we all need to remember that electric guitars and acoustic guitars are different instruments. Acoustic guitars are primarily rhythm instruments and really respond well to open chords, finger picking, and strumming. Acoustic guitars usually have 80-20 bronze or phosphor bronze strings. They're usually thicker gauges than we normally run on electric guitars. For example, I run 10 gauge strings on my Fender scale electric guitars, and I run 12 gauge strings on my acoustic guitars. These differences often translate to differences in playing style, or at least they should. For example, as much as I hate playing bar chords almost any time, I will do almost anything to avoid playing a single bar chord on an acoustic guitar. Ugh, horrible. Not only are bar chords much more uncomfortable to play on an acoustic guitar, it's also much more difficult to get all of the notes to ring out clearly and evenly. Because of this, I always have a capo on the headstock of my acoustic guitar to make playing in different keys much easier and better sounding. However, when playing electric, I just make sure I have a capo handy. I don't use one nearly as often. Bar chords are much easier to play clearly and to get all the notes to ring true. Shifting your playing style and your expectations to match your instrument can go a long way to maybe being more content with what you are getting out of your instrument. I think if you lean into the differences in the instruments and slightly change your playing style to make the most of your instrument that you have in your hands, it's going to help you to get the most enjoyment out of the instruments that you've already got. That's my budget recommendation for Glen. Sorry if it's lame. I hope I was making sense. I think this was an interesting thought experiment, and I would like to thank Glen for allowing me to respond to his video in this way. I wish him good luck with his tone journey. Hey, Glen, please let us know if you learn anything along the way, and let us know what you did and how it turned out. I really enjoyed making this response video, and I'm hoping I can make more like this in the future. If you have any questions about tone or about your instruments, you can send them to me either through Facebook or Instagram. I'll put my links in the video description. Or you can even do what Glen did and make a YouTube video and send that to me. I'll do my best to try and answer it. If you like this video, be sure to click subscribe so you can watch videos that I release in the future. We always appreciate that. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, everybody, don't be a jerk.